we can't even enjoy a much-needed victory Monday after the Giants win over the Colts on Sunday because there's all types of social media outrage out there because the Giants lost the Giants' #1 pick in next year's draft. But we here at Blue Rush, we choose to be positive. So let's talk about the storylines coming out of Sunday's win with our New York Post Giants beat writer Paul Schwartz. Paul, happy Victory Monday, my man. And as a wise man once said, hello, you play to win the game. Happy Victory Monday, Paul. What's going on, man?
Yeah, look, the Giants badly needed to win a game for their own psyches. They had a 10-game losing streak, in danger of going into, leading the season on a 12-game losing streak. They avoided some serious historical, infamy here. If they lost this game in MetLife Stadium against the Colts, it would have been the first team in NFL history to go 0-9 at home in a season. Obviously, playing 9 home games is only since the 17-game schedule a few years ago. The worst they'd ever been is, I think, was it 74, 76? They went 0-7. So look, that's the kind of history you don't want to make. And look, we'll talk about draft positioning and things like that. All I can say is I was in the locker room and I saw the faces of these guys and the expressions on these guys. They didn't just squeak out a win. Now, it wasn't easy. The defense kept on letting the Colts march down the field and score, but scoring 45 points, having Drew Lock account for 4 touchdown passes and 1 rushing touchdown, 5 I'm sure nobody had Drew Lock in their fantasy football championship game, right? Only fans who were absolutely desperate because everybody got hurt. Anybody who activated Drew Lock, kudos to them, because he went wild. And so this offensive explosion and seeing Malik Nabers and Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson just exhale and show relief and like, wow, we knew we were capable of this. That was worth the Giants winning the game. Draft positioning be damned. We'll discuss that. It's coming up soon here. That's not what was on the Giants' minds. What was on the Giants' minds was trying to stop this losing and win a game, and they did offensively in really spectacular fashion.
Yeah, and we get the confliction of this win with the fan base, or allow some people within the fan base. Some people don't want to be looked at as in terms of losing culture being associated with the Giants. And you talk about free agency. If I'm a free agent, a T. Higgins or someone, do I want to go to an organization where the fan base embraces losing and tanking? That's one thing. But right after the game, because I'm on the sideline with Paul Dottino, we do the post-game show. I'm talking to some of the players, Tyrone Tracy Jr., Drew Phillips, Darius Slayton, all those guys. Like you said, it was almost like it was just that relief of we got, and Phillips and Tyrone Tracy both said, man, we got a monkey off of our back. Feels like we got a monkey off our back. And it's like you can't tell players, if you're a fan, you can't tell Malik Nabers to drop that ball so you can get the #1 pick. You can't tell a gladiator to go into the Roman theater and die. No, these guys are athletes. They're competitors. They want to go out and win. So you talk about the locker room. Coach Dable, I saw some of the press conferences. I thought I'd get a little bit more of a smile. How was Dable? How are the players? Let's talk. What did the players say about the tanking and that narrative that I'm sure they heard all throughout the week?
Yeah, sure. Look, one thing, you talked about Nabers, who was spectacular. Yeah. Look, you can't tell him to drop a pass, but the front office and the coaching staff could tell Malik Nabers, who, didn't practice during the week with a toe injury. You can just tell Malik Nabers, look, young gun, you got to sit this one out. Teams have done that, right? Yep. Or players, veterans have taken, what? I can't make it this week. The season's almost over. I can't aggravate this injury. I can't go. And we haven't seen that with the Giants. We've seen a lot of injuries, but, Nabers pushing through and playing. Look, if they shut him down, then they're telling him, you're not getting 100 catches. You're not getting 1,000 receiving yards. We don't care. That's going to bother Malik Nabers. Yes, okay. Here is what Jermaine Illuminor, the right tackle who has been forced to play left tackle, said in his first season with the Giants. I think this sums it up very well. The player versus the player who says we have to try to win versus the fan who says, oh my God, we need the #1 pick to get our next franchise quarterback. This is what he said. Okay, I'm going to read it. When you have a losing season, But the best thing to do in fans' eyes is just to keep losing so you can get draft position. But when you start to create a culture of losing, that's not what you want to do. 3-13 is better than 2-14. You have to look at it that way. That's why you have a GM and all those assistants and all those scouts to get yourself in position for the draft and help us go from being freaking 3-13 to freaking 13-3. I'm not going to lay down and not fight. I'm going to go out there and claw for every inch I can, and that's who I am, and really that's who everyone is in this locker room. So, I mean, I think that sums it up really well. Look, the season is for the players and the coaches, right? The offseason is for the GM and the scouts. That's the way it is. That's why we talk to the coaches, you know, Brian Dable and the players every day, and we talk to Joe Shane almost never during the season. In the offseason, it's Joe Shane's time to take over. That's free agency and the draft. And I understand fans want to condense it all. What I always found was a little odd, Brandon, is, and I get it, but I just, you know, we have to tank for Shedeur Sanders. We have to tank for Cam Ward. Two good quarterback prospects, but not Andrew Luck when he was coming out, you know, not Trevor Lawrence when he was coming out, not Peyton Manning when he was coming out. These are good, solid quarterback draft prospects in a year where most analysts say it's not a great year for quarterbacks. So it just goes to show fans will say we need to tank for fill in the blank at quarterback because they're desperate. I get it. I get it. Remember a few years ago when the Giants won a game against Washington and blew the Chase Young sweepstakes? Yep. Blew it, right? They were going to be number 2 and take Chase Young, and they didn't. They blew it, and they didn't get who they draft that year. Do you remember? They dropped to number 4. They took Andrew Thomas. Okay. How many GMs in the league would rather have Andrew Thomas than Chase Young?
All 32.
32.
All 32.
All 32. Yep. So, you know, it's you never know. You never know. Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the next great thing. He's been okay. You never know in the draft. So I think the Giants look, and the way they look, as a former receiver, right, you had to be standing there and saying, I got a couple of routes in me left. Let me go out there the way Drew Lock is throwing the ball and let me get down the field. I mean, during the season, you're like, I'm good on the sideline. I don't need to be out there, you know, running a 6-yard curl and getting my ass kicked, right? I bet you wanted to be out there yesterday, right? And
yeah.
Say, let me run go route and I'll get some yak.
Especially when you're talking about, like, obviously a guy like me who, if I would have been in that game, it would have been because of Plaxico Burress or Armani Toomer would have been down. So that opportunity against that Colts defense that was just absolutely Swiss cheese and gave it up. I mean, that's going to only help or continue to help Darius Slayton as he enters free agency. Wan'Dale Robinson, what's his role going to be in the future with this team? And then obviously we talk about Malik Nabers. But when you name those 3 quarterbacks that went number 1 overall in terms of Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, and Peyton Manning, only one won a Super Bowl. You know, so like again, just because you have the number 1 pick, fans, I understand the hope that brings, but that doesn't guarantee you a Super Bowl. And when we look at the playoffs right now, there's only one available playoff spots on both sides. How many number 1 picks in terms of quarterbacks are starters for these teams? Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans, Steelers, Chargers. Texans, C.J. Stroud went second last year. Chargers, Herbert was like a top 3 pick, I believe. But where was Patrick Mahomes? And then he sat. Where was Russell Wilson? And he sat. Where was Lamar Jackson? On the other side, the Vikings, Eagles, Rams, Lions, Commanders, Packers. The Lions and the Rams, obviously Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. But Jared Goff was shipped out of L.A., and then Matthew Stafford, I guess he won like 1 playoff game when he was with the Detroit Lions as the number 1 pick. It just doesn't guarantee you anything. All it does is give fans hope and who they want to pick. But I'm glad you mentioned the Chase Young thing, because we don't know how these kids' careers are going to go. We can try and project and have some sort of guess, but yeah, man, I was going back and forth with fans yesterday, Paul. Like, there was just one guy that it kept irking me and all the people around us, because when the Giants did something bad, he was clapping like, yeah, keep messing up so we can get the pick. And then Malik Nabers scores. What are you guys doing? You're so stupid. Why are you doing? And then you see this thing with John Gruden, and some fan calls in their little thing, and he's like, I'm not going to put it on the players, but as a coach, you should be calling plays to make sure that they don't work, to make sure you lose this game. I'm like, bro, like, why are we giving these idiots airtime, man? Like, this is, it just baffles me, Paul. Absolutely.
So Brian Dable is supposed to call, running plays and punt the ball all the time. You think Brian Dable is so secure in his job that he can do that and just throw away a game and say, look, Mr. Maher, Mr. Tisch, we're 0-9 at home. It's never happened in NFL history, but, we got to get the number one pick. Yeah, you'll get the number one pick for the next coach. Right, the next coach, maybe Vrabel or Gruden or Ben Johnson or somebody else will have the number one pick and take Shador or Cam Ward, because you're not going to get it because you can't win a game. And also, you're cheering for Nabers to drop the ball, right? It was very funny. It was actually funny, Brandon, in the post-game press conference, right? So Nabers gets up there, right? And you know how these press conferences have been after these losses, right? Yep. He's frustrated. He's tight. He's distraught. He's upset. He's 21 years old. He doesn't know what to say. The weight of the franchise is on him. And he's being asked to discuss this and this terrible losing and, maybe why he's not getting the ball enough or why he's not getting enough yards after the catch. And so he was asked about, can you talk about the touchdown? And Malik just said, which one?
I love it. Love it.
Right? I mean, that we've been waiting for that, right?
Yep.
Which one? Yep. It's not like, can you talk about the one touchdown pass you threw? Drew Lock had 4 of them to talk about, right? So which one? I don't know about you. I'd be interested in your perspective on this. Yesterday was the first time. Look, Malik Nabers has been good, really good. I'm not going to say great, but really good. And he's got over 100 catches. He's got 1,100 yards. He's been a terrific rookie, this season. But yesterday, watching him play was the first time I said he looked special, and he had that Odell quality where he caught the ball, shook off somebody, and it's like, and then I'm going like this. I'm looking at the sheet. Was that 32 and 22 that he beat? Who was, you got to look at the sheet. Well, let me see. Was that 21 and 32? Who was the last guy that had a chance at him? Instead of he caught the ball. Now, he's made some good plays this year and some terrific plays, but that was the first time where I said, that's what they drafted. And that's what Brian Dable said. That's why we drafted him, to catch the ball 15 yards and go 30, to catch it 20 yards and go 59, to make something out of nothing. That was the first time I said, boy, you get a different quarterback in here and you get, just a better operation. And this guy's going to be something to deal with.
Hey, basically what you said, what I'm hearing is that's the first time we got to see the LSU in him. Yeah. Because when you think about the Jamar Chases, the Justin Jeffersons, the Odells, what's the receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars who leads all rookie receivers in receiving yards? Brian Thomas.
Brian Thomas, yeah.
Jarvis Landry. Well, we can go receiver for receiver when we talk about these LSU dudes, and they all have that big playability in them. And we got a chance to finally see that yesterday, and we got to see a little bit of him joking around, man, like just ease the tension a little bit. And you're talking about. So we talked about Drew Lock, and I was reading this morning about how, Drew Lock kind of responded mentally to Brian Dable being over him, I guess, last game because he played a bad game last game. Talked about Dave's coaching him tough. He was able to go out there, put up 4 in the air in terms of touchdowns, run 1. He was looking a little clumsy on that, on the way he scrambled in there. I was standing right there watching it. I laughed, but we got to see the backpack celebration. Brian Dable talk about, could he possibly be the place gap quarterback for next season? What did he talk about in terms of what he saw from Drew Lock?
Well, he admitted, he said, I can be tough on quarterbacks, and this was, I mean, some people looked at this as maybe a message to ownership. I don't know if it was quite that predetermined, but Brian Dable said that's how a quarterback needs to perform. Okay. If you get good quarterback play, you have an opportunity in every game. Now you could look at that and say Brian Dable is telling ownership, let's get a quarterback and we can do this more often. Okay. We thought we had it with Daniel Jones and we didn't. We didn't have it with Tommy DeVito. We didn't have it with Drew Lock until yesterday. Tim Boyle for a half. So, now you can also say, Brian Dable, you're a quarterback whisperer. You're a quarterback guru. It was your job to elevate the quarterbacks that you had. As you know, Brandon, players can only be elevated so far. And, players said that in the locker room. I'm trying to think who it was. Was it Wan'Dale Robinson or was it Darius Slayton who said, or maybe it was Jermaine Illuminor who said, Brian Dable realizes that, he's in it and he's invested in it, but we're the guys who go out there. We're the guys who lay it on the line and risk our bodies. So he knows he can only do so much, and then it's up to us. You know what I mean? Look, he said, Drew Lock played great, and he did play great. And, guys can play great once in a while. Drew Lock has had a history of being a turnover factory. He's been, he had 2 pick sixes last game in Atlanta. And so, I don't think, this helps, it helps, but it doesn't. I don't think this means that the Giants are going to re-sign Drew Lock and he's going to be their bridge quarterback. I don't think so. Yep. But it helped them get a win. And it showed that, look, Brian Dable, some of his schemes work if you have a quarterback. Look, we can say the Colts defense. I mean, I don't know what the heck they were playing against Nabers. I mean, I don't know what, I don't know what they're just letting one guy on him. I don't know what the heck. I've never seen that all season. But okay, you know what I mean? I mean, defenses are crummy sometimes. You have to take advantage of that. I just think that Brian Dable, I think, knows how to run an offense, and this showed some of that. It's too little, too late, of course. And Wan'Dale Robinson told me, look, maybe this is a building block we can use for next year because he knows he'll be back.
All right, Paul. Final thoughts, because I'm still riding this Victory Monday high right now.
I know you talked to Brian Burns off the field, and you were a little puzzled. He seemed a little down. We talked to him in the locker room after the game, saying this is what fighting to the finish means. Brian Burns has had a good year, not spectacular, but a good year. For him, lousy year for the team, and not a great year for the defense certainly. And he was upset. He had, I think, 6 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. On back-to-back plays, he tackled Jonathan Taylor for a loss. He had a quarterback hit, and he said, "Man, I could have had a really, I don't know how many reallys he had." He said about 5. I could have had a really good game. And he said, when I watch the film, I know I'm going to be sick to my stomach. And then he sat back and said, oh boy. I mean, he thought he was right there. And see, that's good, right? That's not a guy saying we won, everything's fine. He's saying, man, we won. I'm happy, but I could have had a couple of sacks. He was surprised how big Joe Flacco was. Surprisingly, it's the first time he's ever played against Joe Flacco. So he's a guy who's fighting to the finish. He's kind of the last man standing, right? Dexter Lawrence isn't there. Bobby Okereke isn't there. So on a day that was all about the offense, Burns brought some defensive perspective to it. And, I would just say to fans, who say, oh, my God, now we're not going to get Shador. Now we're not going to get Cam Ward. First of all, you never know, right? There are the first 3 are what? The Patriots, the Titans, and the Browns, right? The Patriots don't need a quarterback. The Titans probably do need a quarterback. The Browns still have Deshaun Watson. Who the hell knows what they're going to do? So the Giants, right now are at 4, pending their last game of the season. They still could get one of the quarterbacks. Maybe, they have to take Travis Hunter, and he can be the best 2-way player in the league for the next 10 years. So, you don't know yet. It's the draft. I understand it. We all want to talk about the draft. It's a fun thing to talk about, but that's for after the footballs are put away. There's 1 game left, then they get put away, and then it's full speed ahead with all the offseason stuff.
Yeah, remember when Malik Nabers broke the record, and everyone was, oh, why aren't you excited? It's cool, but we didn't win. And then you hear Brian Burns say things. He's upset that he feels like he should have done more on his performance to help in this win. Those are building blocks for the future. Those are 2 guys that are tired of winning, and there's 2 guys that know that in order for us to win, I've got to be a guy. I've got to go in there, and have to have big games, make big plays on the board. So I respect him for that. And I was like, yo, what's up, man? Give me a little something, give me a little one-liner for the post-game show. And he was like, I don't think I'm the one to talk to right now, man. I was like, man, what's wrong with this dude? But that's competitive spirit, y'all. That's not, an I guy. He's not upset that they won without him or anything, because again, he made some plays out there. So now it's on to the Eagles. Close the season out. Paul, thanks for hopping on with us today to talk about yesterday's, Sunday's win. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Blue Rush.